This week's message is about tending the fire. And I got really inspired a couple of weeks ago when Dr. Eric, the one that came here to do the 9D breath, gave a talk called Tending the Fire. And I went, oh my God, I'm going to steal that from him. No. I just said, this is like this. He used the example of, he goes on men's retreats, and he used the example of they would start a fire from rubbing two sticks together, the old-fashioned way, and then they had to keep it lit all weekend long, no matter what. They had to. So if it started to rain, they had to take that part of the fire, a little part of the fire, and bring it someplace where it was, out of the rain, so that they could keep it going. And he didn't really go into this too much in his talk, but that's what I want to go in today, is the metaphor of that idea of tending the fire. And I'm talking about the fire of the passion that lives within us. There's something true about everyone, and it's called the divine urge. It is something that each of us has, and we can feel it when it comes up. It's that part of yourself that says, I'm supposed to be doing something right now. I need to change something right now. I don't know, I don't even know what it is, but I know that there's something within me that's wanting, And so what ends up happening a lot of time to us is we either submerge it and not answer it, or we take it and we act it out in ways that maybe are not the best for us, and the best for others even. So I know for myself, I've had that urge many times in my life, and sometimes when you don't know what to do, you just do anything. We used to call it throwing the spaghetti against the wall. You just go, and you see what will stick. But if you really listen to it, it's connected to two things, I think. It's connected to your passion, and it's connected to your purpose. Marrying your passion with your purpose. Now, for me, a purpose is something that I feel that I came here to do. I don't always know, I haven't maybe always known what it is, but one of the ways I can tell what it is if I look back into my childhood and I see the places that there was a hole or something was happening to me, whether it was abuse or whether it was somebody saying something to me, or all these things that I took on that were not really mine to take on, but I took them on anyway, and therefore then I had to do something because that purpose was buried in that. So if the purpose was like, I know I was told things that weren't really positive when I was younger, and one of them affected my self-esteem. So what I realized is that was my lesson that I had to learn. I had to learn to have that self-esteem without somebody telling me that I was okay, or that I was good enough, or that I was worthy, or whatever. That was my actual purpose, to grow that place within me. And then also, what else? You serve, right? That's what happens. You grow it within yourself, and then you want to give it away. So what a perfect thing to have, a center here where I can help people to know how wonderful they are, because that was the thing that I needed to know and that I started to grow to know, and now you want to give it out. So that is a purpose. The passion, marrying your passion with your purpose, the passion is the thing you love to do. We all love to do something. It could be anything from accounting to painting to singing to, it could be anything, teaching, it could be anything. But there's something like within us that we need to express. And when we take our purpose and marry it to our passion, then we get to use all those things to help our purpose go forward. Does this make sense? It does to me. But sometimes what can happen, and that's where the tending the fire comes in, is that we lose it somehow. A lot of stuff starts to happen, maybe it's money, maybe it's a broken relationship, maybe it's something someone said to us, maybe it's just a conglomeration of paper cuts that happen over and over until finally we're like, what was my passion? What was my purpose? I don't even remember. Okay, have I lost it? No, you have not lost it, because you can never lose your passion or your purpose. It might shift and change, but you can't lose it, because that's the spark. That's the divine urge that's within you that will not be ignored. It will not be ignored. It will keep coming up. You could go from relationship to relationship. You could go from tragedy to tragedy. You could go from good times to bad times, all these things. But it will not go away, because it's the very essence of our soul. It's the very thing that vibrates and beats our heart. It is that. And we can go through a lot in our life, but that will never go away. It might go down and be submerged, but it's always there. And Ernest Holmes in the textbook calls it repression when we don't do it, when we don't let it happen. What happens is we bury it, and it comes out in ways that are not good for us. It could come out with getting sick. It could come out with not being able to hold a relationship or get addicted to a drug or alcohol or something like that. To get addicted, I'm not talking about having a drink of wine, because I like that. But what I'm saying is that if you submerge it, it will come out. And that's what happens a lot of times. That's why we need to be forgiving and compassionate to people that are having troubles, because usually it's something that's submerged that they haven't let out, so they're letting it out in negative ways, ways that maybe are not destructive to themselves and destructive to those around them. But you see, it never goes away. And if I have to say anything today, it's that. It never, ever goes away. It is the very thing that beats us, our heart. It is the very thing that expresses through us uniquely, that we came here to express. We're all singers. Not all of us, but there's many singers in the world. But if that's your passion, no matter how you sound or whatever, then you need to let it out. You need to do it. And you need to marry it with your purpose. Like, really look in and say, what is that thing in me that I'm growing, that I want to give out? Because I think that, I know for myself, service is important. It is like, giving it is really important. And the times that I felt like kind of stifled were the times that I felt like I couldn't give it out, like I couldn't, nobody was listening to me, or, they weren't, this person, walked away from me or whatever. But it still didn't go away. It was still there. So there's a saying in the Bible, I guess, and I think it's a good one. It's been said to me at times, if you're giving your gift and it's not accepted, if you're staying true to yourself and it's not accepted, then you shake the dirt from your boots and you walk away, and that's okay too. And sometimes I think we stay too long at the fair. We stay too long, and then our passion and our purpose starts to get like really submerged and suppressed. So what I know is that, like I said, this divine urge is there, and we need to listen to it, especially these times on earth when so many people are screaming different things at us and trying maybe to make us not feel like we're as great as we are, or we're depending on the outside, like we're depending on our politicians to, if we get the right guy as president or the right woman, whatever, that everything will be okay. No, it will not if we're not okay. And so we can't rely on that. We have to rely on that divine urge and each take our part, whatever that is. And it doesn't have to be something big. I used to think, when I look at people that do big things in the world, and you're like, well, I'm only doing this, and why has my book only sold this many copies, or whatever, or I did my one-woman show, and it was successful to a point, and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't have to be big things. Every little thing you do in a big way is big. So that's another thing I think to remove from our minds, is that if we're not doing something big, then it doesn't amount to anything. No, it amounts to a lot, because every little thing we do in that way of love and that way of divine urge affects the whole planetary vibration, because we've taken our little part of the tapestry of the matrix and expanded it. Yeah, So, this is interesting, and I'm going to just close with this. So, Ernest Holmes wrote this in the textbook, and it kind of always bothered me for a moment. But then I really thought about it, and it kind of goes along with what I'm saying. He says, man does not exist, of course he means woman. Remember, it was written originally in 1927 and then in 1936. Man does not exist to leave a lasting impression upon his environment. Not at all. It is not necessary that we leave any impression. It is not necessary if we should pass on tonight that anyone should remember that we have ever lived. All that means anything is that while we live, and he writes it with a capital L-I-V-E, and wherever we go from here, we shall keep on living. So what he's saying, and like I said, it used to bother me because I think we all want to make some kind of impression, like we all want to be famous. I worked with a lot of actors, they weren't even just acting, they only acted to be famous instead of just acting, right? So he's saying none of that really matters if we don't become the next president of the United States or the next head of a corporation or the next this or the next that. If we've truly lived according to that divine urge within us, according to our passion, and shared it, it will make a difference. It makes a difference here. And this is what expands outward into the ethers for eternity, really. So I bless you today, and I'm just knowing that each person here has that spark, and to know that it never, ever, 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 ever goes out. It is always there, and we just need to tend it and nourish it and allow it to be expressed. So thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.